Okay, so hello all together. Thanks for the invitation, and I'm happy to be here to share some insights from our innovation department at T-Systems around mobile enterprise innovation. Just for your orientation, also the colleague from Gassner, like me, we're responsible for large enterprise customers, so the Shells, the BPs, Daimler, BMW, and so on. So large organizations like we are ourselves as Deutsche Telekom. And that's the main point of my presentation. Innovation there is a little bit different because it's not an anonymous mass market. We know our customers. We work closely together with them. And especially if you consider mobile, where everyone can imagine the immediate benefits, if you have everything at your fingertips, there's more behind if you want to introduce that into a corporate context. So that's how I want to give the presentation a little bit about our innovation approach also, and then with some special challenges regarding mobile and also some concrete examples where you can see all this and get a more grip on that. So we see a lot of trends in the enterprise market which our customers ask us, and also we try to push because there are societal problems of society like e-health or smarter energy, where ICT and also mobile might be part of the solution of such problems. We have also more technology-driven topics like this M2M communication, where and in which business process where we can use that. We have the connected cars, like Frank also introduced, and we have mobile. But mobile is not only interesting by itself. Normally, all of these little figures should wear a smartphone or a tablet because it's part of each one of those trend topics. In each of these topics, somebody wants to do a data deep dive with an iPad in a few seconds because there's a high usability focus in mobile. And that's only possible if there's some data hosted in the cloud, maybe pre-processed in some high-speed big data platform, and that you can drill down in usability that you might expect in the enterprise sector. So a lot of trends we see and we discuss them, and that's in a very abstract form our innovation process, how we work, and also how we structured our activities. There's the large exploration part, of course, in the front. We do systematic scouting, also together with other innovation units within Deutsche Telekom. Of course, sometimes you discover something by accident, but also you can do really active ideation sessions to really push ideas in a certain sector with certain requirements in certain areas, like those trend fields. We have to think about them, analyze them, understand them, and really focus on some topics because it's really too much even for such a large organization to do everything. So that's more the strategic part. And we didn't want to stop there. So a few years ago, we were more of the innovation management and think tank part, but we said we really have to be more operative, really get into the driving seat and say we have to initiate concrete projects, prototypes, do some realizations, and very important, get the transfer better from those big insights from strategy reports, get some things happening, and also at a greater pace. So what's really different with T-Systems innovation approach, if you compare it, for example, to Apple, where everything is kind of secret till the day where everything is launched, and maybe there's some information and some rumors in some networks, but the final product is introduced when it's finished. And we do it different. We know our customers in each industry. For example, the automotive industry, there are only some customers, and it would be really too much risk if we would go into our ivory tower, develop something and say, hey, here is it, and then they say, okay, nice, but does not fit because of some special enterprise challenges. So we are very open. We invite the customers in several locations in all of Deutsche Telekom, or also we visit customers, do innovation workshops with them. Very important for us since 2010 has become one location. It's the Innovation Center in Munich, so it's one part of my organization. And this Innovation Center, we wanted to build a platform where we really can do these discussions, but also more than discussions. It should be a platform to really work, deep dive with innovations, not only a 40-minute short visit and present some blinking things, or fancy, far away, nice innovation gimmicks. We mostly have there really intensive work with the customers. We invite them mostly one day for foreign customers, or sometimes also 2 days, full-day workshops with deep dive topics. Sometimes we had with EADS, we had a workshop 1 day only mobile, and then we bring everything what we have, all our innovative portfolio stuff and the innovation projects, even at work, are there live. We can go to them, can see if they feel right, if the performance is right, if the people really believe this is something where they would bet some money and even some further investigation on. So a very, very important point, this credibility. So most of the time, 10 to 15 people, 7 or 8 from the customer side, some experts from our side. The typical size is 15 people. More than 50% of the workshops are on a C-level, so CIO and his leadership team or other CXOs. We had last year, just for rough estimations, 160 workshops there. And it is also used a lot of times before large deals, because a lot of customer interactions we have are for more year deals that are 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, where the customers also want to know not only what we have as innovation, they also want to know how we do it. And will we, the right service provider, will be the right service provider that can serve them with innovations also the next 5 years. So very important question there. And of course, mobile is a very important topic there in Munich, because from the first day on we had a cooperation there with also Ludwig-Maximilian University in Munich with a mobile part with and we had a lot of, the first innovations there were a lot around mobile. So this is also my personal focus. Since a few years, I think since 2009, I always pick the mobile topics because this is really my baby there. And it started, I think, with mobile SAP project together with SAP, I think 5 years ago now. And the first thing is we do not only show what we have. I think this is very relevant there first, because we want to get trust and want to show what we can do. But if the customer sees, okay, those guys I can work with, they can do something, then he opens up and he also talks about his real business problems, and that's where we really want to go. And if there's something in those workshops that is worth to be picked up as a seed in an innovation project, then we do often the first step, a rapid prototyping approach. So we work together a lot with students and some scientists from the university, have small groups, 4 or 5 people, 1 guy from the university, 1 guy who really knows the customers' requirements and also the business requirements regarding the stuff about the iceberg I will tell about in a few minutes, and then really start to build something. So think big, but start very small, learn very fast, and robustify in iterative circles. And some examples I brought with me today exactly came from this form of cooperation, not from the big strategic plans, but from those ideas directly from those workshops. Also this bag, I will tell more about later on. If something turns out bigger, then we have different ways where we also invite customers to drive with us, so to go joint innovation projects. And what's the case with this suitcase at the moment? We not only talk about, we are in the beginning of a joint venture with other large corporations, in this case Airbus and Remova, where we build a company together and say this was worth it, and there's more into that. So we have several models, several tools, and now I want to skip to the mobile part, because there's such speed in this development, and I really like this slide from a trend presentation from last year from Mary Meeker, which is also, by the way, in our Telekom social network, and you find it if you just put it in. A lot of interesting slides in there. you have 10 times more devices, each technology cycle there, and the cycles are also becoming a lot shorter. So the first cycle in 20 years, now we are at about 10 years, and with the mobile devices, there are a huge variety of devices. It started with smartphones and tablets, of course, but there are M2M sensors. It's built into the car, as we have seen. There's the whole home entertainment stuff, you know best, and also home automation, like the Quivicon stuff. There's infrastructure topics like smart cities and so on, and of course the wearables like this Google Glass or even these watches are interesting topics, not only for representation or for private enjoyment. A wearable in a business context means it's hands-free. You can do a lot of things where you need your hands in a business context. And of course, they are most of the time networked, and they have non-PC operating systems. And that's the biggest challenge at first for the corporate environments, because they had their PCs, they were well managed, secure, every software rollout was completely clear, and now they have iPhones, Androids, they had BlackBerry, they have Windows 8, there are maybe some other Linux variants and so on, and it's really difficult to handle this complexity if you're in an enterprise context, because the cycle is getting faster and faster. So lots of use cases for mobile processes, and lots of corporate systems are involved, critical systems, and systems where really customer data is stored into. There are a lot of rules and obligations and regulations, corporate governance, but also regulations from government, European Union, and so on, how and where this data has to be stored, how it has to be accessed, and so on. So the first application is always easy. You just show what you can, show the buttons, and the first dummy prototype is always there in a few weeks if you want. But if you then want to go deeper, then it really becomes complex. And if you think about this Industry 4.0 trend, where everyone talks about, it's not only one company. In the best case, this is integrated across several companies. And then it really begins to become tricky. So one example, simple example, seemingly simple, it's mobile purchasing. Everybody would like to purchase like that. So it's a real solution. It's connected to an SAP system where I can order something. And I don't know how ordering is organized in your company. Normally it's an SAP front end, a lot of things and tick marks you have to care about. And if you don't know exactly the process and then upload a Word document with some sign-off of your boss, sometimes you're 2 hours in front of this place. You want to do it like that. Send a shopping cart, maybe as a responsible person, approve it, reject it. And of course, if you want to do analytics about that, and there's a real system we also have built for Deutsche Telekom for our own use, where we can go into the whole purchasing system of Deutsche Telekom. The data is aggregated in an SAP HANA system, so very fast analyses are possible, and the front end is then an iPad, and you really can drill down with the typical gestures in those huge amounts of data. So a lot of systems are packed together like that. Another example, and also a real example from Deutsche Telekom in this case, is a technical service where you have completely different requirements. It's a very high ability. It's also a core business process, ruggedized devices, but a completely different platform. They all have together. There are critical core systems involved, and there are a lot of potential risks for corporate solutions in this case. So you can lose the device. It's the simplest case, but of course you have also all the communication channels in between. The device has to be secured in some way. The applications is it allowed to access to a core banking system if you travel to Asia for this app or not? This might be a question if you do not want it, because there are some unsecured channels. Even if you start with secure email, secure SMS or short messaging or voice encryption, it's a hot topic, because GSM, you can really crack it or hack it with not too much effort. There were a lot of good shows of our security colleagues, even at CeBIT. They showed it live in front of the people, how easy it is. There's the access to the platform behind, and of course the identity. Who is that who wants to access? Very current example, which we also introduced to CeBIT in a partnership with a company from Berlin, is a voice encryption app which you can add on top of a managed device for iOS or Android, or even our high security solution. You might know the SIMCO solution, which is used for governmental and high security purposes. And there's an additional app, and it's VoIP, encrypted VoIP telephony, and also encrypted short messaging. And it also works cross-company. That's interesting. And the Telekom cloud is a connector between that. So if you want have a high security strategy project, or like this joint venture, contractual talks, you can even share it with Airbus without any additional difficulties. So there's a lot more to this, because the app, the nice front end, is only the tip. As I said, you have to think about how to distribute the apps, how to do app lifecycle management with each version. There are different platforms involved. The legacy platforms, you might still work with some Blackberries. Some guys have the iOS stuff. Then you want to save costs, or for those ruggedized field people, only an Android comes into consideration. So you're very fast into 2 or 3 platforms without even thinking about this old way of we have one strategic platform, and this strategic platform everybody has to use. This was 3 or 4 years ago still the way, even for our company. We have chosen Windows Mobile. And then Microsoft stopped complete support, and the iPad came, and then everything started to become really difficult. You have the need from the people. They want to carry around only one device, best case for private and business use. It doesn't matter if you bring your own and maybe get some funding, or you can choose from a device from the company and may be allowed to use it private. Doesn't matter, but how to separate that, how to ensure that not your employer can look at your private photos, a lot of stuff to consider. The remote lock and wipe, a lot of devices are lost. You have to really ensure that maybe also only the enterprise part can be deleted, but your private stuff is not touched. So that's also very interesting. And then the basics come. Those devices have to be managed, which device is where. Some costs have to be considered, which traffic is generated. But then a big thing comes into place. You may be only able to solve all this with a middleware, and then it is a big part of the iceberg. A middleware which ensures a secure channel into the corporate application, which is able to communicate also even to legacy systems, and just enables a very fancy new and modern front end. And of course, everything would be great if you would just develop once and then have a cross-platform application, a way where a lot of people have researched, but the really cool usability for the iPhone is most of the time, if you have got a real iPhone application, a native application. But there are some ways, and for some processes, a cross-platform application might be also the way to go. So this enterprise stuff for the players in this field, Apple and Samsung and the others, were all of the years just prior to be. They focus on mass market, on millions of devices, 6 or 8 million devices per quarter and more. And then you come, we have an enterprise requirement for the German law. You would have to do. They don't even hear. You can send them mails. We talk to them, but it doesn't matter. So you have to, and that's our also chance as an IT service provider. Put on consumer devices that are thought for consumer market additional services and additional features, additional applications, additional security, and continuous services that are not just a feature in the software to enable this kind of mobile applications. And if you've got innovation ideas around this field, that can be gained a lot, because all of those large corporations have this kind of problems. They sometimes have to obey something, and the consumers are a little bit, they are used to those private applications, consumer applications. They are used to this high usability. They want to use it. They want to use services as easy as Dropbox and others. And then they come to the company, and the strategic platform is SharePoint, but there's no VPN connection to the outside, and you have to send it to a private mail, but don't talk about it. So that's often the case. So there's also a lot to win in this context. And of course, this enterprise stuff in back influences also back the consumer stuff. Apple integrated this remote wipe feature, and you can see it. I think this is from June, from New York Times, an article. 38% less devices are stolen just because of this feature. Very interesting. It's a typical feature from enterprise MDM. So as with the systems, we try to address this, where we say we have joined together with the rest of the colleagues in Deutsche Telekom and thought about a portfolio concept where we bring everything of that together and say we have one portfolio which cares about the access layer, okay, the basic enabling stuff. I don't have to talk too much about this. Then this mobility management stuff, manage this complexity and security, put some abstraction layers in, keep the costs at bay, lay the foundation. But what we really want to do is to enable mobile productivity, increase efficiency, enable flexible, attractive workplaces, and in some cases enable completely new mobile business models where mobile is some part of really a new thing where things can be done different. So I brought some examples that bring that a little bit clearer. And they, as I said, started with this rapid prototyping approach. So we sat together with a retail customer in Munich, and after talking about infrastructure and unified communication solutions, he talked about business requirements in their retail stores. The one requirement was it's too loud. A lot of things are there, where the bottles are placed in, and the refrigerator where everything were beeps, and the stuff had to react immediately. They had sometimes 2 or 3 people in the same time run to the bottle machine, and they said it's not good for it's stress for the stuff, but it's also for the consumer. It's complete stress. So they said, can you build with your mobile components a silent solution where we aggregate all those sensors and dispatch some. Okay, you have to go, or there's a task in the room, and if somebody can, and then this was the idea, and at the moment it's a real solution where we have a test retail store near Stuttgart, where it's tested in a real environment. The stuff can also work with an Android watch, and they can just get the order and say, okay, I go, and it's completely silent. It just vibrates. And it's really funny to give the student the order to search for something in some devices that vibrate the most in Google. Really fun project, and it was a first prototype. Then the complete management of the retailer was there, and we started a project now in one case in Stuttgart. Another very interesting topic was this back-to-go topic. You might have seen it on CeBIT. I brought the latest prototype with me because it started really interesting. It started with a discussion with the Airbus Innovation Department, and they tried to build better planes. More attractive, less baggage bins, but more entertainment, and their vision was to build a better plane. But then the IATA, this is a standardization organization from the aviation sector. They have, for long term, thought about how to better track the luggage, because a lot of luggage is lost, and it's really expensive. And then the other players come into field for the airlines to find this luggage, maybe refund passengers. So we thought about a trackable case. Could this be built? How this should look that it works everywhere in the world, in all airports, without changing anything at the airport. Also very important. So it was a kind of a larger student group, I think of 7 students, and one guy from Airbus, one guy from us, a joint idea, and they built a first prototype. I think now it's 1.5 years ago. Just by their hands, really, with things they just ordered somewhere on the internet from obscure Chinese internet stores. So it was really work by hand, but the complete use case was already there. So it's an e-paper display here built into the suitcase. E-paper, why? Because very low energy, and it's readable by those typical machines that have to track this luggage. And the passenger should be able to administrate this with a mobile app. There comes the mobile in place, and also the baggage handler at the airport and the airlines. They also need an app to track this bag. So a typical scenario could look like that. You can weigh this the suitcase by yourself. Then after that, it's kind of fixed. You cannot open it anymore. If you open it, then the weight is lost again. Then you can check in already at home from this. You can label this after weighing. For example, not with the airline tag, you can label this with a DHL tag, and it's directly brought to the airport by, for example, DHL. Then this label can change with a typical airline tag. If you are still there by yourself, you can just put it in the drop-off thing without any additional paper or something like that. Maybe in the end, you don't have to wait at the airport. Maybe there's another logistic service or a service from a shuttle bus from the Hilton that brings it directly to your room, or even the large boats like the AIDA and so on. They are also very interested. There are a lot of huge amounts of luggage, and there's really it's a logistic problem, and a lot could be saved if you, as a customer, maybe don't have to buy it. They just give it to you for this journey, and it's easier for them, and they save a lot of money. So a lot of interested parties, and we talk at the moment. We have 2 pilots with 2 German, one concrete pilot with a German airline, and one request from UK. At the moment, 7 airlines that are really interested because they lose around $2.6 billion per year in lost luggage. That's really a huge amount. They have to refund it, and they have to insure it or pay it. Very interesting case. And at the moment, it's one pilot started, and in Q3 this year we want to have the certification that is officially allowed to be used, and we have some tests going on, and they're very promising that the thing is really able to be detected on the normal airport machines. That's very important in this case, and it's an example where there are various mobile apps, and it's directly involved into the business process. There's M2M, there are sensors, there's a hopefully Telekom SIM card inside, it's locatable, you can do a lot of things with that additionally, and a lot of special business use cases that now turn into consideration, for example, for medicine transport, special logistics, and so on. They are sometimes, maybe in the future, this turns out to be really different, but we're in the 3rd iteration now of this innovation process, and we wouldn't have dreamed what has come out now. So it's really interesting just to start. Another example, which is also very interesting at the moment regarding this Industry 4.0 discussion. If you talk about maintenance in large organization, manufacturers or logistics, it's very difficult to keep track of this complexity. The handbooks are very huge, thousands of pages, and we have a solution also presented this year at CeBIT, where you can use augmented reality to really get a detailed way how to, for example, fix this parts, together with access to also to the product data management system with thousands of parts. So this is very interesting for also, for example, for companies like Airbus and others. And where you can really use the features of the mobile device. And because I have a lot of further examples, this is really complex, and I talked about the iceberg. We try to get this in a little bit more efficient way. So we have an internal concept and meanwhile a unit called the Mobile App Factory, where we try to hide a little bit of that complexity in some standards and some guidelines and an agile process model, a technical framework, and that not everything of that, the security architecture, can be shared also across if you build it once, and that this time to develop gets shorter from a year to month or weeks. So we have a lot of examples, also other examples at the moment, I think around 40 innovation projects and topics we have there in Innovation Center live for our customers. If you are interested, you just can download the app. It's at the moment only in the Apple App Store. It will be also in the Google Android App Store in a few months, I think. And yeah, you just can flip through, see some videos also about the back and the silent store and other examples, see what we do, and if you're interested, also can contact us. So thank you for your time, and I hope I brought some food for thought and some inspiration and also some impressions about what we do and what's the specialties in this enterprise mobility sector. So thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, feel free to ask every time now or later.